but top esports needs him now. So they were smart to get him because Fodic's been kind of mediocre. So Jackie Love's definitely an upgrade over him.
That's big because, well, first of all, these ADCs are definitely the top DFS players on their teams, at least in the LPL. I know in some leagues, mid lane can be as good. So how does Jackie Love stack up for you tonight?
Yeah, Jackie Love's really cheap, so it's gonna be hard to not just pop in the numbers and then get a bunch of him. So what's probably gonna happen is I'm gonna get a ton of him, and then I'm gonna have to tune that down a small amount because the matchup against V5 is just too good. Like DMO just destroyed V5, and DMO was really lowly owned for whatever reason that night. But it looks like the opposite is true tonight, where top's going to be super popular, and they should be.
Yeah, so just talk about some of the ownership. Of course, you can access my predictions for how heavily owned each team will be tonight. And right now, Top Esports is the highest owned team on DraftKings. Nearly 31% of the players rostered will be from Top Esports. And then, I mean, a lot of that's because they have a 95% chance to win. They're playing Victory 5. On FanDuel, a little less popular. RNG is my favorite to be the highest owned. But I also, for two reasons, I think Top Esports is my top stack tonight. The chance that they go 2-0 is much higher than Royal Never Give Up. And that generally is a benefit, I think, because you get that 20-point bonus. And you're really comparing 2-0 to 2-1. So the chance that someone gets more than 20 points in a loss is somewhat unlikely. But do you like for your team to go 2-0, or are you hoping for a closer game?
I also prefer 2-0s because 20 points is, like you said, you're going to score more with 20 points than not a lot more often. Weirdly enough, that's not been the case in a few winning lineups this week, but it's still not very common. So I would prefer to just have all my teams get sweeps.
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit of recency bias because I know there was a big tournament on with 100K up top on DraftKings in LCS, and then the winner had like one game stacked up, and that was a best of one. So crazy stuff does happen, but more often than not, people don't put up fantasy numbers and losses. So what about the Victory 5? Is there any hope? They have a new lineup tonight. CLX is going back to support. Alia's and Mole are starting on top and mid. Any read on the Victory 5?
They might get first blood in 2 games, so their team position might score 4 points. Really, no. Yeah, CLX is still listed as a mid laner, so that's just like I just scratched that off. I don't know. It's really hard to like anything. Like Y4 is the best player on the worst team, so I wouldn't want to play him. But if I were going to play anyone from V5, it would probably be Y4.
Okay. So just a little bit more upside because he's ADC. But they do have a 5% chance of winning this series. And if they do, a pretty good chance to be the top stack, about 1 in 3, I would say. So, man, it's hard to love a 5% chance, but will you have any lineups with Victory 5?
I don't know. The initial part of me says no because the favorites are also good. But since the favorites are so good and E-Star is like really expensive, there's a non-0% chance that I find E-Star captain lineups that have V5 players in them.
Yeah, just so you can afford everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to get like the ADC or mid captain at some of these teams, you're gonna need some budget players. Victory 5 definitely meet that criteria. One thing I was talking about on one of my game plan videos this past week is I found with these really cheap teams, you have a 4 stack and a 3 stack in like a conventional lineup, and people much more often have these teams as the 3 stack, about twice as often than the 4 stack. So I was talking about how there's an advantage, and if you're playing Victory 5 at all, you should have them as your 4 stack. because you're already assuming they're going to win in your victory condition. So you might as well just go all in on them. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's something that I noticed when I've looked back at lineups that I've had, is that I also tend to fall into the playing the underdogs and the 3-stack a lot more often, and that more recently I've been trying to also, like the last week or so, tried to force myself into playing 4-stacks with bigger underdogs, simply because they are typically less popular, and when they do, or if they do hit, you will be rewarded pretty heftily.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, there was a LGD, or was it LNG? I think LNG won one of the slates recently. Or I
Oh no,
always get these
it was
two.
definitely LGD.
That was LGD. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that day they were big underdogs and they had huge performances. So um, that's definitely something I'm looking at, is if you're playing an underdog team in the LPL, it can pay off to put them as your main stack, because when they do win, they're going to put up the numbers. If they don't win, your lineup's toast either way. So let's move on to the other game, E-Star, and oh my god, E-Star 200%, minus 200, so about 2-1 chance to win. E-Star has been really uh, having huge performances recently. So, or sorry, I guess it was the teams against them, because I see they've gotten 0-2 the last 2 weeks, but really good fantasy games for the opponents, if I remember. But now they're the favorite. How are you feeling about E-Star?
So E-Star did beat Wii in the last time out, but prior to that, they did lose their last 3 series. But and they did score pretty well against Wii, especially Cryan. Cryan had like 150 fantasy points against Wii, which is crazy. Uh, this game is going to be really interesting because I think a lot of people are just going to see that this is the closest line and play a lot of OMG. And I don't necessarily think that's bad, because they are a live underdog. They could beat E-Star. And to top it all off, E-Star is really expensive. I've already mentioned that before, but E-Star is like crazy expensive. And they have been the last 2 weeks for, again, very little reason. And I really like playing expensive slight favorites because ownership tends to be lower on them. And yeah, if it's just a spot I like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the concept we talk a lot about on baseball shows, where it's like paying up to be contrarian, because people are trying to build the strongest overall lineups. Those lineups will want to include E-Star because they are the most expensive team tonight, but they had the third highest odds of winning. So that combination makes them pretty hard to justify, except to be contrarian. So in my predictions, about 2/3 as much ownership as Top Esports. So I agree with you. OMG seems to be particularly popular here because they priced OMG, LNG, and Victory 5 like pretty comparably. So OMG has about twice the chance of LNG of winning and 6 times Victory 5. So I feel like your options for stacking today are going to be like pretty difficult. So how are you going to handle all this?
Well, like the thing I want to do is I'm just gonna like crunch a bunch, like a bunch. I'm gonna find ways like 4 3-stacks, 4 2-stacks. You might have to get even crazier than that because to fit what you want. I haven't looked into it yet, but it's just gonna be tweaking crunches until I find the right way to get what I want.
Yeah, so like that's one thing, is like having a little bit of flexibility in the constraints you're putting in your lineup. So if you limit yourself to 4-3, what you're gonna see tonight is like to be able to do 4-3 of top esports, RNG, or E-Star, you're gonna have to pick a support captain pretty much. And if one of these 3 teams loses, which more often than not will happen, then a support captain is really not going to maximize your upside. So are you going to chance it and maybe like take one of the more expensive captains from these teams and then being kind of upset?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, just because I'm super down on their chances, I'm going to find ways to get all of them. Maybe not V5, but basically everyone else. Maybe V5, but yeah, it's going to be difficult because one of the things I typically do in my first crunch is I exit out the support top and team as in my captain and just see what I get. Because a lot of times I'm going to like what I find because it's like I got 2 mid laners, I got 280 carries, and sometimes I'll have 2 junglers from 2 pretty favorite teams, and I'll feel pretty all right with just rostering any or having any of those lineups. Uh, I'll probably do that again tonight, but I might be a little more flexible to top lane captains.
Yeah, so top lane, that's probably the toughest position to captain because it's like in between, like it's like middle salary and low upside. So yeah, the support captain, it seems to work. Like that's the crazy thing is like
So
I've seen a
weird.
lot of winning lineups with support captain. It's a lot better in a 3-game slate like this than a 6-gamer where with 6 winning teams, if you don't have the highest scoring player on the team as your captain, I feel like there are a lot of combinations that can beat you. You pretty much need the optimal lineup to win these. But let's talk about so wait, we're on esports. So let's talk about OMG here. So another team, I feel like they haven't been like that successful as of late. They went 0-2. They went 2-0 two games ago, but they like really didn't put up any fantasy points. The last 5 games, like you're not going to see any winning scores. So what's been going on with OMG here?
Yeah, OMG are a very tactical team, I guess. Like you look at them and they average like 10.7 kills per game, which is the second lowest in the LPL. So even when they win, they tend to just not kill you. They tend to just kill the towers because that's how you win the game. You kill the towers, you win the game. Kill the nexus, but a lot of LPL teams don't do that. They just like kill the people and then kill the towers. But yeah, OMG in wins, yeah, tends to not put up a lot of points just because they don't kill a lot of people.
Yeah, so the pace is huge. OMG about 88% as many total kills as or 81% as many total kills as total kills plus deaths as your average LPL team. However, E-Star is 12% more kills plus deaths. So do you expect that to even out a little bit and maybe OMG will be in a higher pace game?
Yeah, like that's something I was noting in my notes is that there is potential for OMG to, I don't want to say burst out, but see an uptick in their performance if they do win. I was I forgot what game I was looking at. But then like I look at that and I look at their previous scores and I see that they got like 34 kills against V5 and it's still less exciting to me than other teams. But again, it's like I think they have the best chance of getting a 2-0 if they of the underdogs. So it's really it's a fine line. It's just a really fine line.
Yeah, definitely. So it wouldn't be that surprising if OMG won it with low fantasy point scores, but I'm hoping other people will expect that based on their box scores.
Me too.
Yeah, and then like if they do pull off the win, maybe they'll exceed expectations there. Um, so we've talked about all the 6 teams. I want to circle back to Jackie Love because he's not available on FanDuel, and of course
So
he is one of the top players today. So how does that affect your strategy if you're playing on FanDuel?
well, I threw a dummy lineup into FanDuel like recently, like right before the show, and I just had a ton of RNG because RNG is just so cheap, and it looks like a lot of people agree with that. So I may need to reconsider that. But I love RNG's price points on FanDuel just a lot, and Jackie Love not being there wouldn't really affect that much. But I would also like to play Jackie Love. So
So what
yeah.
I'm thinking here is like if top esports does have the most kills, your odds of getting the right players in your FanDuel lineup are a lot higher because you don't need to leave one off. Or if you're doing 3 out of 5, now you only have to hit 3 out of 4. So I think your odds of having the best combination are higher, but also like the chance that you're duplicated is a lot higher too because there's only so many ways you can stack this team up. So kind of interesting dynamics there. I think that will be a pivotal thing in this slate. Another team that's really hard to stack up is Victory 5 because CLX, at least on DraftKings, is the mid laner. So you can't get him as support whenever he's playing tonight. So then you have to leave. One interesting thing, you could pick Mole and CLX maybe, but then, I mean, you don't want to support at mid lane really.
Yeah, because they have two top laners too, because it's Mole and Alias are both top laners.
Oh boy, so there's no guy at mid lane there. That's crazy.
Yeah, they just don't have a mid laner on DraftKings.
Victory 5 clearly believes in positional flexibility here. So, all right.
Yes, they do.
We got a question in chat from Mike. He said, "Are you gonna run one opposing player to your stack in some lines because it's a 3-gamer?"
Unlikely. I think that if the favorites win, they're gonna destroy the other team. So it's hard for me to see where a losing team, especially tonight, managed to outscore 20 points, which is kind of just like a baseline for you get the games not played. So I don't think I'm gonna be trusting that, but there's 100K up top to first tonight. So like I won't begrudge anyone that wants to do it. It's not something that I see myself doing.
It's kind of interesting, like, because one like likely outcome tonight is all 3 favorites win, and then if you're picking a cheap player from the other 3 teams, I mean, like all 3 teams are going to have an equal chance of scoring. So I kind of think tonight it's more like palatable to pick a one-off against one of your stacks. So that's kind of how I'm thinking. All right. So let's talk captains. You're talking a lot about RNG and top esports. So are those going to be your top captains tonight? And if so, like which guys?
So from just the 3 favorites, like I mostly like the AD carries from all of them, except for like if Jackie Love didn't exist, I would love Knight a lot. I mean, I still do love Knight a lot, and I think that like he's gonna be very popular. He should be very popular. He's $400 cheaper. He's the second most expensive mid laner on both sides. I think I just like Knight a ton. He's cheaper. He's not cheaper than Jackie Love either. So his captain ownership is probably going to be less than it should be because
this is like it's really interesting because Jackie Love is the new toy, and like diehard esports fans know this guy because, as you said, he's a champion. But your average Joe who just started playing DraftKings or FanDuel might not know Jackie Love, and they might even pick Fodic because he's the one that started last game. So I feel like Jackie Love's ownership may be a little bit less than you might expect. But then again, people don't love picking the mid laners at captain. It's about 1/3 as popular as picking ADC on DraftKings. So it could go either way. This is one of the spots. I'm really curious to see Jackie Love's ownership today.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, any predictions for where it's going to fall?
Like I guess in the big tournament, it's probably going to be pretty high. I don't know. I wouldn't exactly know what number to put on that, but I think it's going to be high enough to where I can see people saying I either want 0 of Jackie Love or like 100% Jackie Love.
Going 100% wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, to be honest. So the way I have him projected, I did like knock him down a little bit because I feel like some people won't know he's playing. So I have him as the second most popular player on the slate at 41%. But Knight I have as the number 1 most popular, but not a captain. Jackie Love I have more a captain, but Knight is I think he it's going to be really interesting to see how people go between them. It might be close, I'd say. But 5 of the top 6 players as far as projected ownership based on my projections are all top esports. So like you were mentioning going down to E-Star because you can get significantly less ownership. So which players from E-Star are you really honing in on?
I think a lot of people are going to look at Cryan and how he just scored 150 points, and they're going to be like, I want that. Icon's pretty good. I mean, I also want that too, but Icon's pretty good, and he's someone like Crying doesn't always put up 150. He's very good, but Icon's also pretty good. Just from a player standpoint, he might not have as much DFS upside as you would like a lot of the time, but he scored almost 100 points a few times this split. So if Crying just has a bad game, then I'm gonna have some Icon, probably at captain spot as well.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need 150 points. You just need the most points on the slate. So that could be as low as maybe like 100 in a low score day, or maybe 120 on an average day. So like all the players tonight at mid and ADC have the upside to get there, I think. One guy I noticed that's particularly like low owned is their jungler Wei. I guess he's just pretty expensive at 7,400. So do you think there are like is 21% like too low on for him, or is it just kind of like he's too expensive? Because he's more expensive than the mid laner of RNG.
Yeah, it's Wei's always really interesting because he's someone that is always very expensive as our E-Star most of the time. But Wei has like almost an 80% kill participation, and E-Star has a really high kills per game total, like the highest in the league. So he's deservedly expensive, and I don't think people recognize how consistent he is, because he scored 115 last time, which again not normal, but he has so many games at or above like 100 points, which is for a jungler just crazy.
Yeah, so definitely upside. I'm just like, even like that game he got so many points, that was the same one that Crying put up like 150, right? So
Yeah,
it's just like everyone like had massive scores that game. So this is kind of like an interesting spot because he's only 2% a captain. Maybe if you're trying to go contrary in a captain, like that's an interesting option. And then as far as Victory 5 and LNG, any like players? I mean, there are pretty long shots, but are there any players on those teams that might have like talent beyond their teammates?
Maple's really good, and like Shahu's really good for RNG, but Maple's also like really solid. I always play too much LNG, and I'll probably do it again tonight. Uh, I think it's really interesting to play LNG's top laner, but I'm not super excited about that. Lights again starting for LNG. So like the only person on LNG that I wouldn't be excited about playing are XX and Dwan, but I'll probably have some of every other one or everybody else. And V5 is a void outside of Y4 really for me.
Okay, so I'm really zeroing in on Light here because he's 7K, which is way more than anyone else on these underdog teams, which is driving his ownership way down. He's only at 4%, and the team is about 25% to win or so. Or wait, it is about 18%, I think. So apologies for that. So 20%. So when they do win, you'd think that Light as the ADC would have the best chance to be the highest scorer, and no one's paying for him. So this could be my contrarian play of the day, is maybe Light at captain. What do you think?
Oh man, you're falling into my rabbit hole of like finding LNG. There are all these like narrative things, and like it all looks good. Oh, it's a shiny new toy. Yeah, no, I liked it. Sign me up for that.
Yeah, because you said LNG is your favorite team, right?
Yeah. So I always like trick myself into like liking them more than everybody else does. So yeah.
Well, we need to hate on LNG a little bit so we can drive down the ownership tonight. So what are some bad things to say about LNG?
They're probably going to get smoked 2-0.
Yeah, it's hard to win if you get 0-2. So probably don't play LNG tonight. Leave it to us guys who have 150 lineups.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So I know a lot of people watching are probably just doing 1, 5, 15 lineups. So if you were just building one single lineup, what would your strategy be?
I would find a way to 4-stack top esports because they're playing Victory 5. And that's it. That's the only notes you need to do. Like 2 nights ago, DMO was playing Victory 5, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna play. I'm playing DMO today, and that's basically what I did.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean the thing is with top esports, if you stack them up though, it's gonna be hard to make a unique lineup. Of course, most of the people watching they want to get this 100K. They don't want to tie like a bunch of ways. So like, what's some way that we could make a unique lineup if we're taking the chalk stack?
So it's been super interesting this last week. The last 100K contest and your victory yesterday had a one-off 80 carry or not captain, a one-off 80 carry, both in losing efforts, I believe, also, which is insane. Wait, no, Puff won. There was some weird element to it.
Yeah, Puff was the ADC one-off. Yeah.
Yeah. You had LWX and Puff, and there was something weird about like how all of that came together both times. But the one-off 80 carries have won twice, so it's something that I've been looking into more. The first time it won, iBoy won in the 100K, and he beat me by 1.5 points. Thanks, iBoy, love you. Yeah, I don't know. That's something to look into more.
Well, here's what's up: is you take two players, Jackie Love for Top Esports at ADC and Betty at RNG. Both are top 10 projected owned players tonight. But because it's so hard to build a lineup with both of them in it, like the ownership of lineups that have both of them is going to be quite low.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like the rationale for taking the one-off ADC, because then I like had two like low price punts from another team. So like the way you could do it tonight is you take Jackie Love, a captain, take Betty as your other ADC. Then you gotta go really cheap though, because two ADCs and one from two expensive teams, that's hard to make work. So you're gonna have to bank on an upset. So that could be one direction you take the lineup. But there's so many different avenues to making a unique lineup. So I guess that is one strategy I like. Another is maybe you go 4-2-1 and you take the one off from a opposing team of your stack, because like the rationale there is if three expensive teams win, like you're gonna need some salary saver and you're not going to be able to get it from one of those teams. So just to make the salaries work, that could be one avenue to make a really unique team too. All right, let's talk about the team spot. So do you have any trick to picking like which team you want to put in the team spot, or is it just part of your stack?
It's a lot of the times it's part of my stack because and like pricing does matter here. I feel when I look at it a lot more than other times, because a lot of times I'll build like a bunch of just 4-3 stacks, and then I'll just manually go through all of them, and I'll see where I have money and where I can just like swap a team out. So for me, when I'm looking at teams, a lot of it's due to how they're priced, because they all score like 50 to 65 points in a sweep ish. So yeah, a lot of the times you're coin flipping the team spot.
Yeah, so like not much correlation to the number of kills in the game I found. So I noticed today, so E-Star, although the position players are super, super expensive, the team spot is one of the cheapest. So like what the heck is going on here? Like I don't understand that. Like it's so the conclusion is that everyone's gonna have E-Star at team spot, I think. But do you expect something like that?
Yeah, I haven't like crunched at all because I'm doing this and I'm watching LCS. So when I do, like I said, I go through all of my 4-3s and I find ways to either like spend more money in the team spot or spend less. I have a feeling a lot of that will be like, oh, I can just fit an E-Star here and get like a better captain. I think that's probably why E-Star as a team might be more popular than the E-Star players.
Yeah. So it's like interesting because it's the most expensive players, one of the cheaper teams. One other thing you're just talking about, like I feel like if you're going lineup by lineup, it's much easier to come up with like a unique strategy, and that's why it's so interesting. Is because like if you're hand building your lineups, like you have a big advantage of like a strategy of everything, because trying to like figure out a unique strategy for 150 lineups is a lot more challenging than one. So let's talk about maybe the underdogs. So if you're going to build a lineup with an underdog stack, how would you approach that kind of lineup?
I would look to see how feasible it would be to 4-stack versus 3-stack, because sometimes, especially recently and in bigger slates, you can have an underdog, but you still need like a jungle captain from one of the more expensive teams. And sometimes that's not ideal for what I would like to do when I'm playing a bigger underdog. It is a good way to be slightly different because jungle captains with a underdog are not as popular. But yeah, I just need to see what I can get with the favorites and the underdogs. But tonight, I'm probably going to have more 4-stack underdogs and just hope that one of them crushes.
I like it, man, because like so many people are gonna want to like cram in LNG, or I mean RNG, top esports, eStar. If and like as I was talking about earlier, because like so many people are building lineups with the optimizer, they're getting LNG, OMG, and Victory 5 as the small stack. And when they do win, they have just as much potential as the top teams. So I think that making them your 4-stack is a great way to gain an advantage, because basically everyone who has them as a 3-stack, you're going to blow them out of the water if it's the top scoring team. And that's twice as, I mean, when they do win, like it's about as likely they'll be number 1 or number 2 scoring. So it doesn't really make sense for the 3-stack to be twice as popular as the 4-stack. So one thing you could do is start off with the OMG, LNG, or Victory 5 captain. Preferably not Victory 5, because like, the odds of them winning are about as small as they get in League of Legends. All right, let's pivot here. So we got some more playoff games coming up. Have you been doing a lot of these playoff slates?
Yeah, the playoff slates are interesting because there are a lot more dupes because they're just 2-game series, and generally it's really easy to just be like, oh, I want this team and I want this team and I want these players from this players. And there are really only so many rosters you can find within those 2 teams, and the game stacking is also like way more popular in these slates that I've noticed. So I tend to limit my volume in those slates because I think it's less profitable, I guess is the word I want to use.
Yeah. Well, that's something that a lot of people out there like. You want to like be investing your money in the best spots. So like I have noticed that it's harder to get an edge in those 2 gamers as well, just because like I won the first prize twice in a row and I lost money both times, like because like the rest of my lineups obviously like didn't do that well. So that was kind of crazy. And then like there's been a lot of random League of Legends slates like CBLOL. Is that new to DraftKings this year, or have they always done that?
So the most recent one, like 2 days ago, that was the second time they had one. A month prior, they were the only league running. So DraftKings had a slate for them. I did some research on it, and I learned a lot about CBLOL. And I played the first place team. They were playing the last place team. So I was just like, all right, easy smash, easy smash. Last place team wins. I'm just like, all right, CBLOL, we're done, dude. It's over.
Do you have any idea like how you find like lineups for that? Because like the number one question I always get asked is like, where do you find the starters for League of Legends?
Oh, for that, no idea. When I was because I looked around for that, I was like, can I find out where, if anyone's playing any of these guys? But all I did was I just watched like the start of the games, and I saw who started and like when they switched, and then just kind of made a guess.
Yeah.
It's very spooky.
So you gotta be willing to catch some zeros there, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today, like an exceptionally high top prize on DraftKings of 100K, 1/3 of the prize pool going to first place. So does that make it so you're willing to take some more risks tonight?
I'm typically less risk averse than most people as is. So yeah, no, I will be finding ways to lose money playing LNG again tonight.
So here's one thing I would point out is that like Victory 5, they are the punching bag of the league for sure. Like they've won one game out of 20 something. And the Vegas odds are about like 2% for them to win if you bet on sorry, if you bet on top esports, you get like minus 5,000. If you bet on Victory 5, you get like plus 1,000. So there's a huge gap between those, and it's somewhere in between. But there are 23,000 lineups in this tournament, so maybe pulling for a unlikely outcome like that, it's a little bit more likely than the ownership, I'd say. But what do you think?
Yeah. Okay. This is gonna be weird, but you could play like the two top laners, like Mole and Alias, and then CLX at the mid lane because he's a support now. You're probably gonna be pretty different doing that. It's just the rest of your. It's gonna be really weird because you're playing support as a mid laner. There's a lot of things that need to go right, but you might be one of like 3 people that had that lineup.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it more, the fact that like you can't really. Okay, so you can't pick the support at support, so then you don't. You're having 2 supports, and that hurts your chances even more. So the more I think about it, the less I'm liking this strategy. But I want to throw it out there. Maybe LNG is a little bit better.
You'll be unique.
Okay, so on FanDuel, FanDuel is cool if you want a lower price point because their big tournament is a $4, 50K prize pool. It's been trending upward. But how does your approach change if it's 10K to first at 50K versus 100K to 300K?
A lot of it is. I found the lineups on FanDuel look very different than DraftKings for me because the teams are just priced different. The players are just priced different. But I don't change a ton because like the goal is to get first. And if I can get first, like obviously I want to get solo first, but I'm always expecting that if I get first, it's probably going to be with like, I don't know, 10 to 20 people maybe. So like for FanDuel, a lot of it, the differences are just needing 3 teams. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And finding out like the third team I love.
Right, because you need the one-off. Because one of the roster requirements is having players from 3 teams. So that makes it interesting because there are less ties. I'd say. But then like you have to predict 3 winning teams and stuff too, so a little bit harder to do that. Also, their price structure is interesting, so it is kind of hard to like put an ADC captain because having 2 ADCs is just more expensive, even though you're not paying 1.5x at the MVP spot. So, do you find most of the time you're fitting in the mid laners or ADC a captain or MVP on FanDuel?
Yeah. That's something that I have noticed is that initially I'll just try and jam AD carry captains. Like last night with Suning, I was like, oh, Suning are cheap. I can play Suning. And then I jam Huan Feng captain, and it's like, oh, I'm $200 short of what I want to do. I guess I'm playing Angel captain now. So yeah, it's just a lot of mid laners are just cheaper.
One thing I noticed on FanDuel too is their most expensive guy, Fodic, and he's not even playing. So I feel like a lot of people, they're gonna like just click the top name on the list, and then you're gonna be playing against some dead money. So I think you got some interesting dynamics going on there with Jackie Love getting the start. All right, guys. So make sure to sign up for the premium package so you can get all the projections, ownership, and top stacks. Jeremy, you post free articles every day.
Almost every day, but yes.
Okay. Is there one for tonight's slate?
Yeah, I just submitted it to get edited before the show.
Awesome. So check on the website for Jeremy's article in a little bit here. And one of the most fun places you can go for news is our Slack chat. So Jeremy and I are on there talking to people about the slate up until the lock time some of the time. So that's a great benefit of signing up too. Jeremy, any final thoughts for our viewers here?
TSM just won a 23-23 game in the first game of the LCS playoffs. So game stacking, clearly the best thing ever.
Okay. So trying to level the viewers here. You guys, make sure to click the thumbs up button. We really appreciate the support. And let us know if there's anything you'd like to see on the site or on our YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, click the notification bell. And we have a lot of free rolls going on FanDuel. So make sure to head over there and do our EMBA and NFL streams. All right, guys. Thanks, everyone, for watching. As always, good luck. Have fun tonight.